Hello, hello, welcome everyone. This is Life List, a birding podcast with Alvaro Jaramillo, Molly Brown, and me, George Armistead. If you're hearing something a little different today, it could be because we are all outside in the field while we record. How about that, guys?
Yeah,
Hello.
We've talked about this for a long time.
Yeah,
kind of
Well,
came together.
Alvaro's our idea man, so here we are.
that's right. Yep. Nostradamus does not just make predictions. He's also an idea guy.
They saw me. They saw my picture outdoors, and they're like, "Hey, we could do that." And then I said, "Hey, we could do eBird lists," and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're on it." Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I got to start my
I gotta
eBird
start
list.
Mine. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not a competition, of course. It's just,
I hope
what
not.
are we
I hope
seeing?
not. That's scary. Yeah, it's scary. You look like you got a lot more sky at the moment than probably Molly or I do. Molly actually probably got a pretty good chunk of sky.
A decent sky. Raven just came in,
Yeah.
so we're off to the races.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you guys can see behind me, like over my left shoulder here, but that
See a tree.
yes, it is a huge willow oak. I like to say it is the best bird feeder on our whole property here. I'm at our family farm. My grandmother planted that tree like 80 years ago or something.
Wow.
And yeah, it is. It's been full of warblers today. A lot of magnolias, parulas around, black and whites, red starts. I had a really nice morning walking around here this morning, mid-September here. I think, according to Birdcast, something like 1.1 million birds went over the county here last night. So full swing.
Here too.
Coincidence, it's mid-September too here.
Mid-September also there. Wow.
It's at least we're not doing time travel yet, you know. So it's we're keeping it still moderately relatable to people. I don't know. This kind of rings a bell that we might have talked about this at some point. But so yesterday I saw my first northern parula, or whatever you want to call it here.
Parula.
Or parula. And I was thinking, okay, well, these are the northern population, and I don't know if folks know this, but if you look at the distribution, northern parula, it has this big gap, like a latitudinal gap. So they're up in the north in parts of Canada, and they're kind of in the south forests, but they're not in between. And it's because the humidity level or some aspect of the environment doesn't allow for the growth of the moss that they use for their nesting. That's so they're uniquely into. And I thought that was pretty cool, that just one little plant group that's missing, or at least not abundant at a certain latitude, and the birds skip it. And actually, they're either north or south of that area. And I always thought, like, can you detect two different migration peaks in the south of a northern parula or not? It's kind of neat to think about.
That's fascinating, and I've never really noticed it before, but looking at the map here in Merlin, it's just as you say.
Yeah, I don't lie.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
There's kind of like, there's kind of a big swath through the middle of the range there, or at least the northern third of it or so, breeding range, and there's a nice patch. It looks like kind of in New York, where around the Catskills and the Adirondacks, but otherwise, nice big break there.
Also
I don't know.
interesting that it's for nesting material rather than a food source, which is generally the first thing
Yeah.
I think of.
Right. And then you wonder, too, there might be a correlation. Maybe the nesting material is associates with food source and vice versa.
Yeah,
Or,
right.
I don't know,
Speaking of, Al, second bird on the list here since we started. First was red-eyed vireo. Second, northern parula right now.
Uh-huh.
We had several here this morning too. And
Likely
I'm
of the
also
northern
on
population.
Yeah, I'm on a 2-day streak for Connecticut warbler, which was a new property.
Oh, wow.
Molly. Good
Yeah,
God.
which they migrate through here in good numbers in the fall. So I knew it was very possible to have on the property, but accidentally kicked it up.
Jeez,
Well,
that was my number one target this morning. I was like, I hit
Really?
all the areas where I've had one here once before, but I was like my Connecticut warbler meter is like running on red, and I need a refill on Connecticut warbler real bad.
This is the week that I feel like we're really kicking into fall migration here. And I get a little FOMO earlier in September every year because it seems that things are delayed in this part of the country from what's either more in either flyway to our east or west. So we've always got what feels like a week lag or so. And so, I start seeing a lot of reports of people getting a dozen warblers or more in a day, and it's not happening here until this week, which is also my birthday week, which is the first day of fall this year. So it's a good time for me.
Yeah, that does dovetail nicely.
Yeah.
Al, you said you were looking for hawks there. Are you seeing any hawks?
Yeah, just now an adult bald eagle flying way up high going south, and a turkey vulture that was also, flying around. It's really blue skies here today. Definite kind of cold front went by. It's not the classic, puffy clouds, cotton clouds that seem to be the best days to see hawks, with a north or northwest wind, but this is probably a day where a lot of them are going over, but they're so high up.
Yeah.
And if that head of that bald eagle hadn't gleamed, this American bald eagle here in Canada, a bald-headed eagle hadn't gleamed in the light, I would not have seen it. And my eyes are just not what they used to be back in the day. I think this is the kind of time where I notice it, and where you really need some resolution. I'm hopefully they'll do eye transplant soon. We can just.
Blue skies are very, very, very hard on the hawk watching. There's no question, even for the freshest of eyes. Pretty darn tough. There's been no hawks really moving here today. Good bunch of songbirds around. And I was thinking, I had several things here. I did a nice traipse around the family farm here.
Traipse, yeah.
Started out watching the water and still hoping for brown booby. Still never had a brown booby for the property.
Oh, me neither.
Me
It's
neither.
going to be tough up there, Molly. Yeah. But we're just south, 7-8 miles or something, maybe a little bit more than that, of a spot in the bay where there's been routinely 12 to 20 all summer long.
Wow.
And I know it's just a matter of time that, we would get one. And so I'm always looking whenever I can squeeze it in, but I did not have that today. But when I got out to our little peninsula, I did have a juvenile tricolored heron fly over, which is the first I've ever seen here. My dad's had them a couple times before, but I've never seen one. And that was pretty awesome. But also on my walk, I had a handful of brown-headed nuthatches and a flight of red-headed woodpeckers, which was deeply satisfying. I still remember my lifer red-headed woodpecker. It was about 30, 40 feet from where I'm standing right now on a locust tree, and it was perched, and it was a migrant because they never nested here. But today I had like a dozen, and nearly all of them were flying north, which I can't really explain. And they were either in singles, pairs, or there was one group of 4. And man, it was just so cool to see that. Just see these birds on the move, right at probably peak migration for them. And those are two birds. I couldn't see all of them. Most of them were adults. There was a couple that I couldn't see. I didn't identify any as juveniles, but there were a couple where I couldn't really see the head as they were flying. And even the wing pattern, is different, but still with the brevity of the sighting or just the distance, I couldn't tell necessarily what age they were. But yeah, mostly adults. And I think they actually bred here this summer for the first time as well. But never saw either of those birds as a kid. Another thing I never saw here as a kid that we see here now a fair amount in the last decade or so are Delmarva fox squirrels, which was an endangered species up until about 10 years ago, and I had 2 of them today. I've seen one here before, never seen 2 before, so to see a pair kind of doing their thing was pretty fun. They're quite different than the gray squirrels.
Your dad might be introducing them. It's my thought. He loves squirrels, that man.
Yeah, nobody
it's a well-known
loves
fact
squirrels more
we
than
talked
him.
about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of things pop into my mind. One of them, if you see a Connecticut warbler right now while we record, you have to say, we're stopping our regularly programmed recording really. Connecticut warbler.
I don't think I'll see one from here, but we'll see.
You don't think? Yeah, that's my other question. So as a person just moving back to the east, who ages ago saw a Connecticut warbler, but not for a long time, where would I look? What is the standard kind of thing that you say, here's where I should look for Connecticut warbler, or what kind of habitat did you see them in?
I was actually just talking about this with folks this morning because I also went to one of our ball banding stations here in Morgantown. But Here, I've consistently had them on dry hillsides that aren't too steep, but that are hillsides that have a lot of brush and are up against like some successive vegetation. Like at the property here, I've had them in a little locust patch that is just surrounded by a lot of like really brushy, like viburnums and dogwoods, and it's right up against a field. And
So it's
that's
not really moist,
how I've
and it's
seen
not
a lot
really
of them.
forest. Like it's sort of like
Right,
brushy,
up
low
against
forest,
forest.
but it's dry. Oh wow,
That's what I would say.
interesting.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not like it's like morning warbler habitat, but if it weren't lush, if it were all kind of more open underneath. Because I feel like in a lot of cases too, I see them where if you get down low, you can just watch them hanging out on the ground really easily. Like it's open enough that you can see them moving low. So that's
it's
my
like
take.
interesting. It's not exactly what I would have kind of predicted. I would have predicted something much more moist for some reason. I always think of these, almost like, I don't know why, but that's a really good thing to know. And then, it almost seems like it's 1/3 of the way to Kirtland's warbler migratory habitat, which is like clear enough. There's some shrubs around, but it's clear enough that you see dirt on the ground, like you see open patches of dirt.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
okay, that's good to know. I think it might have to wait till next year or the year after or the next 10 years, but I will be looking each time I find a dry kind of spot.
I wonder
We have a lot of
you'd be-
limestone here too, so
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I assume that you would have them more in the fall than the spring up your way, because I've never seen
Yeah.
the spring one here. I've seen them in the spring in Ohio and migration, and I've never seen them on breeding territory.
Yeah.
But one day.
yeah.
And I'll tell you
I've
what
looked
else
for them
here-
multiple times in breeding, but no.
Yeah. Well, how far from you do they breed
And
now?
well, I mean, if I wanted to see one in the summer, I could. It'd probably be like a long drive, but long drive. I'm not sure exact. I can't say for sure, but I've looked for them in Alberta, and one of the things that seemed to happen there is by sort of about July 1st, they've stopped singing, and our tour was timed around then, and they were there, but they just had stopped singing. Then they became kind of impossible to see. All the locals were like, "Oh, a week ago they were sitting right here in these bushes, right up high." Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll look next fall. High, shrubby, hillside spots. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. For me, I think it's probably a little different. It's probably a little different than for Connecticut's, but I think it's probably similar habitat, but we don't have as many hills. But for us, I would say it's almost like common yellowthroat, morning warbler type stuff. It can be wet or dry, but it's usually, you're looking at, kind of a mix of, mostly kind of grassy, shrubby stuff, maybe like blue stem panic grass, maybe a little bit of pokeberry, maybe the odd small tree someplace. But it needs to be a pretty big patch of open stuff that's kind of waist chest high, maybe even a little higher.
I
By the way, I got
gathered
a summer tanager right now is a good bird for the property right here.
I Yeah, I think the wintering areas, now that they're sort of somewhat known in Brazil, are really dry. I want to say it's like that cerrado habitat, which is like, it's low vegetation, dry, and taller tree here and there, but definitely not forest and definitely not marsh and definitely thick enough that something can hide in there. That's my impression of where they winter.
I think that's part of why they're so hard to see so much of the time, is that they are in that thick stuff, and you kind of got to get them at the edge. And it seems like so often you get an initial sighting, you put them up, and they might stop and they might jump up and look at you, and then they jump down. And if you don't get them in that little bit, that might be it. You might that might be all you get. And I've had that a number of times with them.
Of course I didn't.
Yeah.
Of course I
Go ahead,
didn't
Molly.
have my camera with me yesterday, but I did take cell phone video because it was 10 feet from me. But I had flushed it up
That's
because
awesome.
yeah, I mean I'll send it to you guys. It's pretty cool. But I was looking at a sourwood tree that is here and maybe 6 feet tall on the property. We have a few of them. Do you know what sourwood is? It is gorgeous. It's like my favorite tree in the fall. Just a beautiful, beautiful, bright crimson red. Actually, it's like the color of my kombucha here. And I was just walking down to get a closer look at the tree and accidentally kicked up a Connecticut warbler. So I guess you
I'll
have
have
to
to
do a
look
little
up
bit
what
of that, too.
sourwood is. That's like
Yeah, it's beautiful.
yeah,
Nice
that's
little
cool.
tree.
So local news for me, I've only been here in the yard back here from California a few days, like 2.5, 3 days or something. but I crossed my 100 species mark this morning, 102 now for the yard. So it's
Nice.
climbing fast compared to
Yeah.
compared to the California yard. This is faster than the acquisition rate, as I called it. And 100 was American pipit,
Oh, that's nice.
then field sparrow and ruby crowned kinglet kind of rounded up the 102. So there's still a lot of really common birds that I have not seen here. You know,
Your acquisition rate will remain high for a while.
yeah, for a while, and you know, by the time next spring rolls around, I think, you know, by next June I could see a 200 of or something like that possible. It just
Wow.
ducks and shorebirds need to be the things that show up for me, and I've already had a few flyover shorebirds, so I think it's doable. I mean, spotted, solitary, lesser, greater yellowlegs have all been over, and leaf sandpipers. So it's not bad.
Yeah, especially if you do get yourself one of those, nice mic for some live listening at night. You might get some good stuff that way.
Yeah, I have that's one of these, I don't know, it's not ethical question, but birding listing questions. Like if you're there and you hear it and you see it's identified and you didn't know it was, let's say a veery because you hadn't studied up. Can you really count that on your yard list if you didn't really know the technology
It is a good question.
told you?
But I mean, sort of like photography. If you photograph something, you're not sure what it is at the time, and then you go back and later you're like, oh, I can tell what this is. Because that's exactly kind of what happened with me the other day, where I had an olive-sided in the yard, which, really good yard bird. And I was reasonably sure while I was looking at it, it was an olive-sided. And so, I never really saw it perched. Each time I saw it, I saw it like do about 5 really quick, short, fast flights. And we get peewees in the yard all the time. And I was like, this looks bigger, broader, stronger, faster. And I was like, I'll bet you that's an olive-sided. And I kind of got to where I thought I was moving around trying to get an angle because I could see that it was perching. And I managed to get a couple shots of it in flight that are bad, but you can tell that's what it is. Without those photos, I would not have counted it. But with the photos,
yeah.
I was like, that locks it in.
Yeah, that is.
At least you're looking at it in that scenario, and you think that's what it is, and you're taking photos to confirm. Versus, like, I don't know, taking a picture of snow geese and you realize there's a Ross's goose in later that you didn't even know you were looking for at that point, But
Yeah.
for anything
And
that you don't,
I don't know how I
get,
felt about that.
yeah. That's all a good argument to have an iNaturalist project for your property, because then you can throw it, anything. That's not a life list. That's just things that have been recorded at your place.
Right.
Yeah, I guess there's a different aspect there. I was actually also wondering, like with big iNaturalist projects, like, when you start getting in the hundreds and you're trying to see, max out and see new things, at what point do you just stop remembering what you've seen and not seen? It's like it must be every little wasp you're photographing, and, by the time you're done, you have 40 photos of the same little wasp that you have kind of
I'm getting
never
there with
really
my
learned.
Huron,
We have a lot of
my
that,
Huron
yeah.
sachems. Yeah.
Yeah, wanting them to be something else. Well,
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
It's collaborative too, right? So when we had our wedding here, I asked everybody to use iNat a lot. So now there are a dozen different people at least who have iNatted on our property. So
Yeah.
I
love
don't
that.
think I was a little nervous when I looked through stuff later that someone was going to have a really cool record that. Well, actually, one person had a milk snake, which I haven't had on the property.
Oh,
So
wow.
Yeah, wow.
yeah, but
You know what?
Yeah,
what
it's
would have been
fun.
funny is take a picture of you guys and put it up as unidentified lovebirds. That would have been good.
Lovebird spa.
Yeah, probably get like a really mean. It's like this is not
right,
what we
somebody
use
who's going to be
iNaturalist
really
for.
mad.
It's not a joke.
The only time I've gotten yelled at on iNaturalist was for a backup camera shot.
They don't like it when you put humans on there, is my understanding.
Well, maybe not.
But your olive-sided flycatcher makes me think of this bird that's causing quite a stir back where we're, in California, Central California, in the Bay Area, the dark-sided flycatcher, which if you're thinking,
yes.
okay, I've heard of olive-sided flycatcher, what's dark-sided? It's actually not in the book, in most of the books. It's an Asian species, the real deal. It's actually the group that gave the English name flycatchers to any bird, is this group from Asia and Europe. And It's a pretty cool story. We were kind of listening to some of the first-hand accounts yesterday. Molly and I were talking to Chris, and he was we you don't need to know all the background, but we were talking about this. The cool thing was that somebody, like one of the local birders, actually saw this little flycatcher. I think there were two people. It was Eve Meyer and Patricia Lynch, and they saw this thing, and they both said, this thing is weird. It's not the normal stuff. And they kind of put the word out that come and see this flycatcher, and they did a description. And I think for a lot of people, they would have heard or seen this description, looked at it, and just sort of said, there's a lot of flycatchers out there. It's probably a peewee. It's probably a, whatever. It's likely not a big rarity. But one of the local birders, Garrett Lau, who traveled with a lot, his good friend, who's a superb photographer, went out,
really
photographed it. And it was like, and he said, basically, I think this is a dark-sided flycatcher from Asia.
Wow.
And this was hours later. I mean, the whole situation didn't take long. And what was really funny is that people on it was a listserv at this point, got this info about the bird, then the photos that were supposed to be attached to the message, and not everybody got the photos. So some people were seeing the photos, and others were like, where are the photos? What the heck is going on? And, like the fever pitch of interest is suddenly like building. And then the photos come out and people are like, oh my God, and then it goes out on all the other channels. And apparently we've gotten to the point now, I guess it's day 3, that first it was first hour or so, the real locals, by the afternoon, a lot of the people from the Bay Area, a lot of my friends were there. By the next day, it was sort of the rest of the state was showing up. And then I think now it's like all the people from outside of the state have flown in and are hundreds of birders have been seeing this. What I think is a really fun looking bird. It's a brown thing with spots, a little streakiness to it really doesn't look like much, but it actually has a funny shape and it's got big eyes. It kind of looks cute. I kind of like the way they look, and it's just one of those birds that seems to be just causing a stir in a great way. People just super happy that it's there and they've seen it, and it's almost like a cultural event where I think some people are just going to be part of it, and it's on the Google campus of all places, which is funny. And not only that, it is the same place where a couple of years ago a camera, trail camera captured an image of a Siberian ruby throat. So it's the same place. So it's a place that's kind of magic. Unless there's like a Google employee that brings stuff in and just lets it go in the backyard. But I don't want to start any rumors.
Yeah, a little suspicious.
But isn't that cool?
That is wild. Yeah, I mean, I think for folks that aren't familiar with it too, like this is a bird that from a North American perspective, I don't remember how many records there are for Western Alaska. I don't think there are any mainland records maybe aside from this.
Might be Barrow, actually. Believe it or not.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I know that there's records from St. Paul Island and the Pribilofs and Attu and maybe St. Lawrence Island. I don't know. But, it's of that genus of flycatcher, the Muscicapa flycatchers. It's a rarer one to even get in Western Alaska. And I would think this has got to be the first record for the lower 48 by a long shot. And that is wild, man. That is really awesome for Garrett for getting those pics into the two observers that noticed it to begin with and were like, hey, this is a little different. As you say, it's a cute bird. Like, it may just be brown, but like it's nice and plump with a big eye and a nice eye ring. Like it's a nice looking bird, given that it's just sort of a small brown bird overall.
Yeah. And they do have dark flanks, as the name implies. When the first photos came out and everybody was like in the first minutes of this flying out in one of the venues for bird information, California, somebody said, isn't that olive-sided flycatcher? And you can really kind of see why that, it's a brown thing with darker flanks.
Sure.
But then somebody else came in. It's like, no,
it's way cuter. It's way cuter.
It's like, no, you are wrong, sir. It's one of the classic birding behaviors sometimes.
Yeah, it was funny to hear the tale of it unfolding in the state. whatever chats, and I can totally picture how that would go down.
Yeah,
Whose audio? We're picking
like,
up George's audio?
I was going to say, is that a red-headed woodpecker?
Yeah, there is.
no.
It's going to be our first bird on the podcast. I think your chickadees were picking up, too.
I think it's a gray tree frog.
Okay, I was going to say, because I have
really?
noise canceling in. It could be, could be, I have Cope's gray tree frog here. Do you think you have it at your house, Al? Or?
I mean, I got northern, or
gray...
not copes or whatever. It's like I got a gray tree frog. I don't know what species.
I actually, because I have noise canceling in, I can't really hear anything right around here.
I can hear more in both of your yards than my yard.
Yeah. Now, I think, if I remember right, and some of the California frogs did this too, like in the fall, when they call, they sound a little different than the spring sounds. And it's like they're slowed down, or I don't know what it is, but this sort of sounds like a slowed down, a gray tree frog to me. But again, it's been years since I've heard them like a lot.
We like, as I entered the house last night, there was one doing that same kind of call from one of our magnolias here. It was I was thinking that's the first one of the fall that I've heard here, so I wasn't sure where it was coming from.
I always think of them sounding like baby raccoons, that little purring baby raccoon sound. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. By the way, we had a rabid raccoon in our backyard just a couple weeks ago. That was it was not like, it was not like a super aggressive one. It was more like, it was like kind of a drunk, kind of crazy one is sort of what it seemed like. But we ended up having to call the game commission to come get it, because it was one of these things where it was sort of stumbling around during the day, and then it would like sit on its butt, like in the middle of the sun. It's like, kind of like it was,
with a beer in hand kind of thing.
I was going to say, it looked kind of like somebody that was down on their luck and down, in the city, just kind of like sitting on a curb someplace, and, or me in a lawn chair after I've had a beer and passed out, sort of something along those lines. But he didn't care about people, and like my dog was freaking out, and I was like, and the raccoon did not care about the dog really. And finally we called the game commission, and they kind of triangulated on it. Eventually the thing fell asleep in a neighbor's driveway, again, middle of the day, just like passed out on a driveway in the sun. And they came and got it. But yeah, for a good little bit there, we were walking around the yard a little gingerly,
Yeah. It's sad to see.
Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't have to do anything to contain it. Yeah,
I was nervous about that. And some of the neighbors were like, oh, he's just a little sick. We'll throw him in a box and take him to a rehab place. I was like, I wouldn't recommend that, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
There are a lot of rabies cases reported around here right now, too. You have nuthatches up there, George?
Yeah. I do have brownheads. Again, I can't
We're
hear
getting,
anything.
Our listeners are going to have a nice little mix on there.
Yeah.
You guys can hear my yard right now better than I can.
I've got eastern white breasted I just saw right now, but I've got the headphones on, so I too not quite hearing if they're calling.
Yeah, I feel like I might be hearing the brown heads, because I'm right underneath a huge old loblolly pine, and they love that, and they've become feeder birds for us here.
It's pretty cool.
As well, yeah.
We've also had a ton of red-breasted nuthatches in the area, including hanging out here at home. So I'm happy to see that starting up.
So much fun when those things are on the move. Yeah.
Maybe this is one of those things worth kind of like researching, because it could be a complete, lie of a story. But I think some of the aspects of the behavior of vampires, and the idea that, sucking blood and all this crazy stuff comes from people who had rabies.
Wow.
Back in the day.
Whoa.
And there's some element of it that might be true behaviors, and afraid of water. And there's I remember reading something ages ago, but rabies is scary stuff in any case. And definitely we're better off today with some of the vaccines that we have that people have created versus in the old days when you had to get 13 shots to the stomach or whatever. Do you remember that? Like, that was so scary sounding that no kid wanted to get rabies. It's like, chop my arm off. But don't give me rabies.
No, it's supposed to be a pretty painful series of,
Yeah.
I just saw something
are
cool
also-
fly by, but I don't know what it was. Just flew by.
This is very much the height of monarch migration here. Do y'all see a lot of monarchs in either of your patches?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
our milkweed here that we planted has been destroyed. And it's been destroyed by monarch caterpillars. Like, I came down at first, I was like, oh my God, what happened to all the milkweed we planted? And I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of what should happen to it ideally, is that there's a lot of cats. But yeah, they munched it up, man. There's almost nothing left.
Those aren't the ones that are migrating through your yard, though, right? They're the ones that bred in your yard. So
This was maybe 3 weeks ago.
yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of migrants right now, for sure. I'm only down here every so often.
Right. When we have the right days on like ridge lines, particularly on I think like a kind of heavy foggy morning that's holding them down, you can see dozens and they're all lined up. I mean, like you see, I haven't seen them in wintering grounds, but it looks like that, and you'll see 100 of them or a few hundred of them. And I don't know if that happens in a lot of places where you see migration or not, but you can see it here.
You mean like
It's great.
you see them in? I'm sorry, you see them
they're
moving?
like
or you
hanging on a tree, like before they take off
Oh,
in the morning
yes.
when they're waiting to dry off.
I've seen them a few times like that around Cape May and especially at Cape Charles in Virginia, where they come in to roost kind of. And yeah, I know my mom once got to see a huge roost with Mark Garland in Cape May. I've never seen anything quite like they saw, but yeah, I've seen dozens,
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
happens.
fun. I wish I would have kept track of them here today. I don't know how many I've seen, but maybe 100. Just flying.
That clumping happens like on the north shore of Lake Ontario, Lake Erie. Like I remember seeing it birding in Toronto, but here where I'm in this peninsula, I kind of see them go by and no concentrations. I may just have not gone to the right spot. I probably have to go to the south, right at the edge of the lake.
Right.
But a lot of merlins flying through here, and I'm kind of confused as to whether they're locals or they're migrants or what. And a lot of blue jays going over. Like while I've been talking, I think 15, 20 blue jays have gone over.
Very
Nice.
It's kind of fun.
I had a merlin here, but when you have them around here, there's really no question. They're all migrants here, although that is a bird that is exploding as a breeder. I mean, that was a bird that 20 years ago, it pretty much kind of bred only along the top tier of counties in Pennsylvania. And now I think this year there was one nesting in one of the ring counties of Philadelphia. I think it might have been Bucks County or Montgomery. I can't remember. But there was a breeding pair. Again, unthinkable not so long ago, but they really are expanding their breeding range, at least in the Northeast, it seems.
Yeah, they didn't breed here when I was a kid. Like now they're breeding all over Ontario, like Southern Ontario, and they tend to love the conifers, like the big spruces people plant in the middle of the towns. Big huge spruce by a big church or something right in town. That's kind of where they breed. They grab these sort of, not in a sense, non-native kind of habitats,
Right.
and
but
just expanding into it.
But it works for them.
Yeah, that's it's superbly interesting how that's expand. I would have always thought they were really a boreal bird, but the first time I saw them in an urban situation was, I think it was Calgary, and they're like, they nest here in town. They really like it in town. And I thought, I guess, well, peregrines like towns, and this merlin seems to like more the smaller towns or smaller cities rather than the big cities like the peregrine. Maybe the different falcons will segregate to town size. So villages will be kestrels, small cities, merlin, large cities. And then only, I don't know what to do about gerfalcon. Yeah, Molly.
It's funny. Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. It's peregrines that I would say are expanding a lot around here. So I think that would shoot your theory in the foot, because they are not in towns around here. We don't have towns for them.
Yeah.
I think it's the Edmonton Christmas count. I believe it's the Edmonton Christmas count that typically has the North American high, the content, the count, the high count for merlins and because there's something like 400 or 800 feeder watchers on that count. Somehow there's like a big, effort to get people to watch their feeders and contribute to the Christmas bird count there. And sometimes they end up with, triple digit merlins, which I suppose could involve some double counting. But still, there must be. It is a town that is probably got a lot of boreal species in terms of trees around, and has a lot of merlins as well.
You know what? While you were talking, I saw a merlin attack another merlin, and the one merlin like puffed out its throat and it looked all white, almost like in anger, and they just went off to the west. So I think they were migrants. Weird.
I got a monarch cruising by me right now, monarch. You know, it's funny, the merlin that I had this morning gave, like, the way I found it was I was looking offshore and there's a dead locust tree, like nice snags, you know, and I actually heard it giving like almost like chirping sounds. And I was like, what is that? And I turned around and it's like, I've heard them make that sound before when they're interacting, sort of like you're talking about merlins. I wondered if maybe there was a second one around that I just never saw.
You guys are out in sort of, you know, or may have visited some of the eastern hawk watching sites and that I've kind of never been to, like Hawk Mountain and some of the others. But, you know, when one of the sites that here in Ontario that I used to go to called Grimsby Hawk Watch, they would put out like a plastic great horned owl on a post. I don't know if that's something that's been done elsewhere. And then the merlins, every new merlin that went by would attack it. And the other birds would just, you know, would leave it alone. It's like merlins are the jerks of the bird world. You know, they're just like,
absolutely.
You know,
That was why, remember, that's why I said it's like my top reincarnation bird, is because they just look like they have a hell of a good time and nobody really can touch them. They're on the move, you know?
funny.
Staying
Squirrel
pretty well
cuckoo.
hidden.
I had a couple cuckoos this morning. And they've been hard to come
wow.
by.
Oh, I got a gnatcatcher.
Yellow-billed, I guess?
Yeah.
Or you don't get black-billed? Yeah.
We do,
We
but
get either.
they were, yeah. Yep.
I think George was mentioning that, you know, the olive-side flycatcher, and I was talking to him yesterday about olive-side flycatcher, and I think that black-billed cuckoo might also fall in this category. I think that when they migrate, they just go long, non-stop migrations, like, you know, without stopping, so that you don't see very many of them migration, even though they're actually quite abundant. In particular, the flycatcher is actually very common in the parts of Canadian forest. And the fact that you just don't see them that much as migrants south of where they breed suggests to me that they're just flying over everybody. And
Right.
I wonder if
More
black-billed
behavioral
cuckoo
thing,
does
you know.
that. Yeah.
That would make sense. Like, I would say they're kind of detected almost at kind of equal levels in our region.
And you know, they're both going to South America, so they're both really like
Right.
strong flyers and the whole thing. So, you know, definitely if a blackpoll warbler can make these flights, either one of those other two can be doing that kind of thing, but they're just probably not studied as well, I would say. My guess,
Yeah.
like how everybody's looking up in the sky as we're talking. Like,
I know. Yeah, we were saying we're recording video for this too. We'll see if that ever sees the light of day. But it's just us looking in different directions.
yeah, it's like the classic birding, you know, when you're a bunch of birders outside talking. I'm sure Molly, your wedding was like that. Like everybody was looking everywhere, which way. And if somebody had videotaped it from the outside, they would have said, these people have some kind of strange, you know,
social
behavioral issue, right? You know,
exactly.
Yes, that would be called birding.
We call birding.
Yep. Luckily, it was so cold. I think activity was down and everybody was just waiting for the ceremony to be over. But that's all right. Well, in not good news for the property, which we call Vandalia here, I've talked to you both about this offline, but officially received the contract that our property is slated for a new power line to come through. Yeah, which means it's clearing about a fifth of our land, taking out all
Wow.
the trees and everything, and we have to relocate our guest cabin. And it's a data center that's going in Washington, D.C., and they're sourcing their power from south of Pittsburgh. So it is planned to come through this corner of West Virginia, and they're just waiting for their final permit from the state of West Virginia. So if anybody has any anger at the world and wants to take it out, they can write a comment on this power line and submit it. But, you know, we've known that this might be coming for a while. We heard about it a few months back, that there were like 4 proposed routes and we were one of them, and it turns out this was the one that they picked. But I will say, I decided that if it does happen, it's not going to go through where our current house is or where we plan to build a house, so I don't think we'll move. we are going to seed that sucker with the coolest wildflower mix from a native nursery and fix it up into the best meadow habitat that we possibly can. And as much as I don't want this to come through, that is not too bad of a silver lining, I suppose. So we'll see what happens next.
Could it?
Maybe we'll get a Jew falcon on one of the power poles someday.
Maybe.
Could it?
I'm trying to find silver linings here as well.
I know. Well, we have a kestrel nest box up that hasn't been used the past 2 seasons. I thought, well, that'll increase our kestrel habitat. And I don't know. We'll see.
Could it end up being moved if any other aspects come up, or either public concern or environmental issues anywhere along that route?
Maybe. So in my comment that I submitted for this, I did say that the most united I've ever seen any group of people in any community around here has been when folks have gotten together to talk about this. And I mean, it's not a local crew. They don't even cicadas stirring up here. What you got, George? Whoa.
He's are you sure it's not a
Inching away
western
from the
warbling
camera.
vireo?
Yeah.
Western warbling
it
vireo.
really is. Holy
Is that new for you there?
Yeah. It is definitely new for me, and I don't know if my dad has had it here before.
You gonna go get him?
I was going to say, there he goes. Wow. Oh my God.
No proof, though. No proof.
Oh my God. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. Wow.
What's the status of?
I mean, it's annual, in the county for sure. There's certainly a smattering of that come through, but it's scarce, It's like, it's a hard bird to get down here. Hard bird on the eastern shore. I feel like it's one of, I don't know if this is true exactly, but I think it's one of those birds that kind of hugs the fall line and the edge of the Piedmont. And once you get kind of south of that, it becomes less common. And like if you look at warbling vireo, it's practically absent, really the southeast. I don't think Philly vireo is quite that bad. I think, my experience is off the fall line. As somebody who lives right at the edge, I have not seen him much on the Delmarva Peninsula, and I've seen him much more often in the Philadelphia area.
Well, you would hope so. I mean,
it actually
why
took me a
did
long
they give
time
it
to
that
get him
stupid
there.
name then?
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. Yeah,
Don't tell me it's named for
rare.
the cream cheese or something.
I think my dad's taking a nap. Otherwise, I would definitely also.
Pause
It's not
the
moving so
podcast.
quick. Sorry. That's
Oh, all right.
really exciting.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's not a bad start to our birding while
We're gonna have to do this more
podcasting.
often, Molly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Somebody's got a blue jay.
Yeah, blue jays, and I've got 2 ravens actually over here too. 2 ravens, so it's like the ravens are taking over the world just like the merlins. So it's
They really
interesting.
are. Yeah. I'm watching a bay-breasted warbler they've been around for a week or so. I've had them daily.
One in late August, and then none since. I've been looking for him down here.
I've also had a lot of Tennessees and a lot of palm warblers the past few days.
It seems like it's been a good Tennessee year.
Huh? Good Tennessee year. I wonder if that means it's the budworm.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have like questions every day here because I don't have the context to know the nuances of things, but so obviously you're in Canada, so you have Canada geese around, but today like a lot of Canada geese just sort of were around, and they were flying and acting like they were just they're moving from one place to the other way more than usual, and then at least 2 flocks high flying. And I thought, do Canada geese, like migrant Canada geese, arrive this early? I would have thought October would have been when geese would show up. And then Canada geese are such a mess because you have all of the introduced populations that are giant Canada geese type populations that are quasi-migratory, and then I don't know where the wild migratory ones come from here. And I ended up with so many questions that I don't even know where to answer them. It's like, this nuanced
How
kind
would
of
you
stuff.
begin? Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because there have been some changes in behaviors here, at least. There are now about 400 to 500 that I've been counting nightly that are in a field down the road from here. I don't see flocks like that whatsoever in the summer, and they just keep increasing.
Huh.
And that's
So
been in the
there
past
could be
10 days or so.
Okay. So there could be local movements and stuff, and maybe an actual migration's happening. And yeah, I'm kind of keen on. I thought, okay, well, if it's migration and we did have, north winds overnight and all that, why not ducks? I did not see any ducks show up, and And I thought, well, I guess they're not all coming from the same place or the same situation, but I was kind of perplexed as to, this early in the season having geese moving through, but I guess maybe so.
I've had some small groups as well at home in Philly moving, and I have wondered, whether local. Typically, I would not figure any migrants until October, really. Any real migrants for us until October in the Philadelphia area. And but yeah, it's a mess now, as you say. Like even the hunting season has gotten all screwed up on those. I don't know where it stands now, but people were joking that they should just start, throw a keg of beer on the back of a golf cart and, close the golf courses for, a week or so, and that'd be the best place to hunt them. But there wouldn't be much sport in it because, those things don't move around a whole lot once they're out on the fairway or the greens.
Yeah. The one fun factoid I remember about some of these local, golf course geese is that when they go to actually molt, they do have a molt migration, and they will move to areas actually sometimes substantially far to the north to go molt and then come back. Like I think there's some of these ones even in Toronto that were going up to like James Bay, molting and then coming back down. And I thought, that's insane.
That's really weird.
And again, better to check up on my faulty memory, but it was.
I would have guessed those things just never moved that far, but that's funny.
Yeah.
I just found a bird by shadow, by the way. I was looking over here and I saw a shadow of a bird land on a little snag, and I looked up and I was like, that's going to be a peewee. And I looked up eastern peewee on the little snag over here.
Good posture in that shadow.
Yeah, exactly.
Another merlin was catching a dragonfly. Boom.
Nice.
Yeah. Green darner. And then
I think
moving
my
to the
monarch
west.
count is about 4 since we started, Molly. I think I'm up to about 4 monarchs now. Also had butterflies pretty good today. Quite a few buckeyes, a lot of silver-spotted skippers. And when I was out walking the edge of the fields, there were dozens of pearl crescents, which is one of my favorites. I love pearl crescents. I just think they are the best. And there were dozens and dozens today. I mean, might have been getting close to triple digits on those.
They're exactly like that here too. I think a morning cloak might have just flown through the camera on here, which is a weird one to have this time of year, but we've had a few around. And I finally got a hair streak for the property. My first hair streak was a gray hair streak last week.
Oh yeah, I love those. They don't make bad hair streaks. All of them are great.
No bad hair streak days. Then here, like the pearl crescents, there's 2 potential types, and I photographed them and I put them up, and nobody identifies them. Like,
what do you got there? Red banded and gray, or
no, northern pearl crescent, and what's the other one?
I'm sorry. Gotcha. Yeah.
Pearl crescent, and the other one must be, I don't know, common pearl crescent, or is it just pearl crescent? I don't know, but both are supposed to be here.
Do you have Canada swallowtails or tiger swallowtails, or both?
I think both. They're a different time of the year, and I'm still learning all this stuff. But yeah, Canada swallowtail, and then there's the eastern tiger swallowtail. Yeah.
And you get giants there too, right, Al? You get
Yeah, right.
That would be a
And
sexy
black.
one to get around here. Yeah.
Swallowtail.
And black. Yeah, had a lot.
Guys,
of
I cannot believe that I just got Philadelphia area while we were doing. I'm still like I'm going to be coasting on a high for like at least a day or two on this. Man, wow.
And you're sure, right? But the western warbling vireos. This is an issue that's going to start coming up. They actually look a lot more like Philadelphia vireos than regular warbling vireos.
Yeah.
And I can see, our future is one of difficult IDs, but that's how we essentially make a living. It's by figuring some of these things out.
Well, our old buddy Tom Johnson has a very good paper, I think, that just came out on separating those two. I forget where it's published. If it has been published yet, it's got to be very soon if it hasn't been. But I think it was spawned by one that they had in Cape May in winter, and they had to kind of sort it out. And I think eventually they did sort it out as a Western. So yeah, there will be more to examine with that. What I will be very interested to see with the Westerns that make it east is if there's a real pattern in the timing. I'd really be very curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to me like the timing of vagrants, Western vagrants in the east is often like really late and winter type oddities. Not
Oh yeah.
always the case with Eastern vagrants in the West. Sometimes they're just a couple of weeks later in migration, and that's about it. But anything midwinter that is, like a Nashville warbler midwinter, you kind of go, is this more likely Eastern or the Western, or that type of thing. Winter, anything in winter that's you assume is the common one or that you see in summer, either east or west, you probably I should think about this in terms of could it be a vagrant, whether a flycatcher or tanager, yeah, Nashville warblers, well north of where they winter, hummingbirds, all of it. Yeah. But are you like
Sorry, I got,
swatting at the trees?
there's a plane going over. I think I was muting myself because there was this plane going over, but it's kind of on the way out. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you're absolutely right about what you were saying about the Western vagrants in the East is a lot of times they are picked out late in the fall here. Yeah, like the one, kind of the classic one was people would be reporting like great crested flycatchers in November or December here, back in the 80s and early 90s or stuff, and people started to realize, well, wait a minute. These are actually all ash-throated flycatchers, and actually great crest at that time of year would be far, far rarer at this point than ash-throated, and there are many, many other examples now of western birds that kind of, yeah, like the late October on into mid-December is, I think of as kind of the real western vagrant season here in the mid-Atlantic and probably much of the East, really.
So I just saw something like a behavior, and I wonder if it's common where you live. But here, ring-billed gulls fly high up, and they do all this fly catching. So they like nighthawks. And do you see that
I don't
where
see it
you are?
from ring-billed gulls that much. I don't know about. Well, I guess Molly, you don't have many gulls where you're
I
at.
don't see ring-billed gulls.
I see it from laughing gulls
Rarely.
around here. Yeah, yeah. We see a lot of laughing gulls doing fly catching around here, and I think it's a lot of like not wasps, but a lot of what are they? Flying ants.
Reproductives, yeah.
But yeah, certainly see that from laughing gulls a lot in the late spring and summer.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I've
something
seen
you
that in
see
laughing gulls and not-
quite a bit out here, but ring-bills in the West don't seem to do it. And it's a very classic behavior for Franklin's gulls, fly catching
Oh yeah.
in the prairies, and to some extent, I think California gulls in the right situation. It's like you kind of forget how versatile gulls can be, but they have to be smallish or smaller, yet not
Right.
too small.
Right.
That's the
Like you're not
thing.
going to see a great blackback gull hawking insects, really.
No, they're not. Yeah, they can't move quickly enough, and then you also don't see Bonaparte's gulls way up high doing insects. They tend to be catching insects next to mud, more like a shorebird.
Hey, you know what? I just got a text from my neighbor saying that there's a bear walking this way. So maybe we'll have a bear on the podcast.
That'd be
I'll
a good
let
one.
you know if that happens. If
Fair
I
enough.
move too far, I'll lose service. I think it's going on the other side of the hill from here, but I'll let you know if it angles this way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Golly.
Funny.
that's I actually posted the other day little memories of Tom Johnson. And this is sort of the time of year where I think of him most because of pelagic trips that we used to do together with the field guides crew, and he would always kind of hang out. He would we'd just go and do some birding or something, and also he'd always find some rare bird in California. I mean, it was kind of legendary. Tom and Doug would be around, and they would actually, one of them was Philadelphia vireo of all things, in California, and it's funny how you get like a time of year, the natural events that happen, as you'd expect, would remind one of a friend who used to bird or talk birds with you. Sometimes more so in the fall than at other times, just because, lots of stuff's going on, seabirds and all this kind of thing. It's weird because, you go from sadness to like happiness of just thinking about those times, I think. And I don't know if that's what others like. I feel a certain warmth of just thinking about, oh yeah, we also, there's the loss of like, oh, he would have been interested in the water temperatures out in the ocean this year, and he would have liked to have talked about that. So it's a kind of a loss there, but also just he never sort of leaves our minds. So it's just that I'd share that because since we're talking about what's going on right now, it's one of the things that kind of came up for me this week.
Yeah. I've also been thinking of Tom a lot because I do very much associate autumn with him, and the morning flight stuff at Cape May. I often think of his yellow-rumped warbler shot when they start showing up, not too far from now, and to me it always looked like he shows like a yellow-rumped warbler in a glide, and I was like, somehow it reminds me of like a lammergeier soaring, but it's just kind of perfect for Tom and for Cape May. And yeah, it's Tom season, this is probably the time that he thrilled at the most at being home, and also would have thrilled at being in California for those seabirds and eastern vagrants.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you had a pelagic, but we had also multiple pelagics out of Half Moon Bay and Monterey, and the story is warmth. And there have been, this year we saw Crevaries merlets on a couple of occasions, and actually a few trips, maybe 3 or 4, where Guadalupe merlet showed up. So all 3 merlets, sign of kind of generally warm waters. But there are other things that were still kind of missing. The North Pacific is so warm right now all over, like so off the charts, that it may be creating an oddball situation where short-tailed shearwaters are arriving way earlier than they usually do because their habitat farther north is just not bearable in terms of food, too warm. And then on the other hand, there are no boobies. You'd think there'd be a lot of boobies and things from the south, but I think what's happening is the warmth anomaly is actually happening in the north, not in the south. The south is actually kind of more normal for their climate, yet all of Asia and all of the north into Alaska is warm, and it is troubling. But fortunately, in the California inshore is still really, really good with food, and the water has been productive this year, and there's a lot of fish, so there's no breakdown of the California current food web. But you wonder how long until you have a big breakdown. And Anyway, that's the story from the West Coast right now.
South of San Diego, where is the next place that regularly has pelagics and data points to know what's going on?
That's a good question. There's some California birders now that are starting to go out from northern Baja California. And then there's some folks in other times of year that go from actually southernmost Baja California, but not much.
Yeah.
It does seem like there's more and more pelagic activity off of Mexico overall, which is pretty cool. More and more trips out of Oaxaca, for example. Yeah, still a long way to go to get a more complete picture of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose you want.
Yeah. Guys,
fun.
I'll be interested to see how our listeners respond to their podcast co-hosts birding. I feel like
we sprung this on them.
Yeah, we did. We sprung it on ourselves a bit too.
Yes, in true lifeless fashion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ad-libbing as we go. But I do think this was a fun experiment. And I sort of feel like our thoughts have meandered a bit as we spot bears or spot birds or wonder if bears are going to wander into view.
Now, see, that is not unlike a normal podcast for us. It's just different content.
That's true. Just outside, bigger chance at higher volume, I guess, variety.
Yeah.
Nice red spotted purple drifting in. Looks like he's going to land right here. Oh, there's 2 of them. Nice.
Yeah, I think early on some of the comments we had and throughout the first couple of years was that people really enjoyed when we were just talking birds and chatting. And maybe this will be another aspect of that. It's like they're actually actively birding as they talk, in a sense, almost like being at a rarity or a lunchtime at the bird festival, and everybody's kind of gathered around and you're chatting about bird topics, but you're also like, hey, look, Philadelphia Vireo.
Tractable. Oh, look at this. Can you see that? It's red spotted purple. Looks like it wants to land on my computer.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you both send me your checklist, I'll put all of our checklists in the show notes too. People are
Sweet.
curious what
Mine's short but sweet. So. Yeah. Well, we should scoot, but I feel like there's a lot more to say, but we've run even a little over than we normally do. Man, that plane is destroying me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah. So it's the realities of life, right? We have to
Yeah.
contend with planes. We have to contend with stupid power lines going through, and then on the other hand, we have these birds and potential meadows and other things that keep us happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, and talking about Tom too, I gave a talk at my local bird club about teaching in the prison and what it was like for the first half of the year that I've done it. And I wasn't really sure where I was going with it when I started writing it. And then by the end, I had really latched on to just how grounding it is to watch birds, particularly in migration, when like everything else that's happening, you still get the same week that the same things are passing through. And it's really nice to have that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could-
a lot of
could not Thinking
consistency.
the same thing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we should scoot.
Yep.
I'm probably going to keep
Busy,
birding.
busy.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I got to go tell Dad about this Vireo. My God.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go find this
Yeah.
bear.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
right.
everybody for listening while we had our meandering thoughts while we looked at some meandering birds. This has been a lot of fun. We'll do it again. We'll be back again soon with another episode of Life List. Thanks for listening, everybody. And yeah, get out, go birding. See you around, guys.
See ya.
Bye bye.